Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Baligian.
What is up? Happy holiday week to you. This is such a great week. I'm sorry I said the same thing to Shep last night, Mike. When you talk about like great holidays, I think in years gone by, Thanksgiving was kind of disrespected. And I think Thanksgiving is taking its proper place amongst fantastic holidays.
I agree. Do you think that disrespect is by the kids, and then as you get older, like I remember it not being much when I was younger, but now that I'm firing up the smoker and I'm responsible for all the food and I love doing the cooking, yeah, I agree with you. This is one of the best ones. And then you throw the football games and everything going on. This is a great holiday. Very, very underrated at times.
You know what? And you just hit the nail on the head. It was one of those things. I mean, Mike, I went to Thanksgiving Day games for years before I started working them, but it takes on something different when your kids are away and then they have an opportunity to come home. And I know, unfortunately for you, your son can't make it because he's going to be playing hockey. But man, it just hits harder when your kids can come home, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, but hey, you have to remember, not only do I have Liv coming home, even though Seb's out and Lindsay, he's got a couple games this weekend. Sean, Nellie's coming home.
That's very
Nellie's coming home. And that Nellie's first Thanksgiving with us. It's going to be excellent. So it's going to be a little special. And not to disrespect Sebby, we'll see him at Christmas time, and I'll save him some turkey.
Okay, now this is the point in time I have to tell people that I still find this just fascinating, because Mike is a lifelong dog hater.
Yeah.
And that is not an overstatement. Dog hater.
Yeah.
And you are smitten by Nellie.
Yes. But what people don't understand, Sean, and we have this conversation a lot whenever you're around Christy, you guys try to get on me. I am still a dog hater. I'm just a Nellie liker. Nellie is that dog that is my grand dog, and she is very special. But other dogs, still drive me crazy.
Well, I know my two dogs don't for sure. I mean, there's no way that somebody could suggest that. Not those two dogs. Hey, Mike, it's interesting because honestly, I don't want to say the last time we talked, I thought that Coach Lalonde would be fired.
Yep.
But I thought that it wasn't too far away.
Yep.
Now, I want to give credit where credit was due. They're 2-1 since we last spoke.
Yep.
And two of those losses showed me, for all the people out there wondering if the guys quit on them, two of those wins showed me that they haven't quit. The two comeback wins against the Islanders, they had every reason in the world to tuck their tail and just ride it out. And in semi-dramatic fashion, in both instances, they found a way to win the game.
Yep. And the most important one was the first one, because we were coming off that the West Coast trip, 3 straight losses. Everybody was calling for Lalonde's head. They go down early. It looks like it's going to be another loss, and they pulled out that win in the third period against the Islanders. And not only they pulled out, Sean, but it was who did it. It was guys that were getting called out, Raymond. And then we go into the next game that it was a feisty Bruins team coming in here, Sean. I don't know if you saw some highlights from the game before. They were fighting anybody and everybody. That's not a happy group. To keep them to 2-1, Sider had a real nice game against that top line. Those top guys are doing it, but they showed up, and it gets back to not only the last show when we were talking about everyone wanted Lalonde's head, but let's just go back to last year when we started talking. If you remember, we started hearing whispers of the locker room, and we said the calling card would be if Steve brought him back. And also if Kane would come back, because Kane's not going to come back to a dead locker room and a bad coach, a lame duck coach. Steve's not going to bring that back. He's the one that's supposed to be coming on. He brought Lalonde back. Kane came back. So it started then, and I questioned it last week. I said, is he the problem? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to fire him. Is that going to be the problem? And the guys kind of showed out for him. Now, this next game against Calgary's coming in hot, Sean. This is going to be a big test.
It's interesting because I think one of the things that we have to touch on, and I think a couple other people brought that comment up. Tom said, our buddy in London said, good evening. Seems to be a little bit more effort, except the PK. Dead last in the league right now as we sit here tonight, for what it's worth. But Mike, listen, I'm a firm believer. Do I think that Lalonde's the answer? I don't. I don't. I think he's actually going to lose his job. Honestly, I think it'll happen before the end of the year. I really, truly do. It was funny. I'm sure you saw and read the same things that I saw and read. A lot of buzz about Joel Quenneville in the past week. Some people thought it was going to happen like a week ago. It didn't. So I have to say this in that regard. I think people are throwing things against the wall to see if they stick. Because the one thing that I've learned from Steve Yzerman, he's not letting anything out there.
No.
He is not floating anything. He is not there's no possible way that's coming from Steve Yzerman. That's my long-winded way to say I don't believe any of that stuff right now. I just don't.
Yeah, and you've stood by that for a while. And actually anything that kind of leaks out, you've said, no, like Steve's not, there's no leaks there. He's not letting it out. He's not going to let it let it get out there that, hey, I'm going to fire this guy then. But back to that, the penalty kill, these 3 games we're talking about, they've only given up 1 power play goal in 6 opportunities. And when you get to it, we've talked about the coaching of the penalty kill, and we've talked about the effort. These are things that have picked up, and you can coach that penalty kill into something else. And I'll take your word on. I mean, you don't think he's the answer. I can't see him being the answer. But for right now, they're playing for him, and this guy's getting some things done that, at least for now, it seems like maybe some of that talk can pipe down a little bit, and we can see if these guys can move forward. What I want to see, though, Sean, there's a deep drop off after like our top 5 scorers.
100%.
And on the edge, teetering on whether he wants to jump off on the bottom end or hang with the big boys, is Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And at a -6, I believe last time I checked, that is, this is also hindering. We're talking about Lalonde and his job. There's guys not doing their job there on that ice. And that gets into how is Steve going to evaluate this, and what are we going to do moving forward?
It's very interesting. Lucas Raymond, by the way, also picked up his game. Yep. I want to give credit where credit was due. That's something you and I talked about, and I thought that he's been certainly more of a force. But to your point, and I want to repeat what Adam said here. Adam said any coach is going to be stuck with this defense, and you know what? It's not just this defense, Mike. It's exactly what you were just talking about. All one has to do is pull up their stat sheet right now. Like honestly, I mean, you're talking about their forwards. Okay, Raymond, 20 and 21 games. Dylan Larkin, who's been their best player, I don't think it's close, 18 and 21. DeBrincat, 17 and 21. Kane, 10 and 20. Tarasenko, 8 and 20. Kopp, 8 and 21. They just aren't getting a lot of production from their forwards in particular, Mike. It's not there.
No, and again, and then once you like that drop off that you said, once you get the Kopp, that you're talking 8 and 21, and then it's just really going away with Comfer and Rasmussen. And then we were talking about the defense. You get to the back end of it. What are we doing after Seider and Edvinsson?
Right.
I mean, and then when I look at it, something that I started pointing to last year when we were just looking at teams and stuff is this goal differential. And with players, it's that plus minus. You cannot have your top 1, 2, 3, 4 of your top 5 guys minus players. And then the first guy that's a plus player on there is someone that's playing your toughest minutes, which is Mo Seider. And then the guy with your second toughest minutes is probably Edvinsson. He's an even player. Like, your forwards have to step up and help up, because something that's going to happen that me and you both have talked about is Talbot and Lyon. They're hanging on. I don't know how long this is going to go with the numbers that they're putting up, Sean. They're going to need these forwards. Are going to have to learn to play the defensive game, especially these top guys, because we know they're up against their top 1 and 2 lines.
It's not sustainable. Sorry. That's one thing I've been consistent about. I mean, it's been a month, right? I mean,
Yep.
I was in Germany and Switzerland a month ago, and I watched those 2 games while I was there, and I remember texting you and just going, I don't know how they won those games. It's just not sustainable. I mean, and look, you got to remind people that Lyon in particular, he's going to run out of gas. I mean, it's been that way for a few years running now.
Yes.
It's. I think there's a reason why he's been in this position in his career. Eric says, "What's up, guys? Good to see you. Thank you very much." Tom said it'll be nice if the Wings could find that 2C. No doubt about that. I think this goes back to, and we touched on this many times, Mike, in particular last week. And I want to make it crystal clear. This is not, and to Hockey Town's credit, I don't get the impression, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree, I don't get the impression that people are trying to lay the blame of what's wrong with the Red Wings at the feet of Coach Lalonde. I really don't. I think they understand this roster's not where it's at. But, if you play that up the middle game, as Tom suggested, I mean, you've got Dylan, JT, Marco, and Andrew Copp. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Well, it gets to something, Sean, that we've talked about for a long time. Tom's calling for a 2C. I would like a 1C.
Sure.
And then we drop down a
Just
2C. Drop down a 2C, a 3C, and now that and it's funny how that just changes that roster. It would just change that. It would just change the roster up dramatically. But that is something that is definitely needed. And I think you are correct that taking the pulse of the people out there, other than what they read from the talking heads out there about Lalonde and he's got to go, and Quenneville, and before Quenneville it was Montgomery, they're just frustrated with the play. And if there's something we could compare it to, Sean, and you're much more of a guy in the know than I am, it seems very much like what I was hearing as the Tigers season was going along, and they were scoring 1 run and 2 runs, and like their record would be 44-4 if they could just score 4 runs.
Right.
I'm hearing a lot of the same frustrations. It's not pointed at a manager or a coach. It's pointed at what's going on and the level of play that's there, the level of talents that there. Now, obviously, hopefully we can end the season the way the Tigers did on the ice here. But I just don't know.
Well, you know what, Mike? After seeing what I saw out of the Tigers a couple months ago, I can't count anything out. That was so. Yes. I don't care what anybody says. There are some people that think that equals future success. I'm going to use the same gosh damn term that we all used in August and into September and even into October. The way they did that is mind-boggling, and it's not sustainable. There's just no other way to say that, and to expect that to happen again next year is crazy. But you're absolutely right, Mike. Is you look at the schedule forthcoming, Calgary at home, New Jersey at home, Vancouver at home, at Boston. This is going to be a huge next few games for this Red Wing team. And oh, by the way, let me also remind people, we knew it would be, I think both of us, I know certainly me, thought that we'd see it more from the Atlantic Division, the uber competitive East. I mean, the East is incredibly competitive right now. And this is one of those things, Mike. I mean, how many times have we said it? Tampa was going to find their way. I get it. They're not Tampa of even, a couple years ago, but Tampa was going to find their way. Yep. They're not ready to go quietly into the night. As I sit here right now, Mike, I still think Boston isn't ready to go quiet in the night.
No.
They're to quote my buddy Neil Rule, they've begun their initial descent, but yes. I don't think they're ready to go quietly into the night. I think when all is said and done, they're going to be a playoff team again.
Yes, I mean they're right on the edge there. They're going to turn their defense around. They're at a minus 19 goal differential right there. That's purely defense. That's effort. Whether it was a Montgomery thing or not, but the Boston deal has always been that they know they have those top guys. Those top guys are veterans. They're getting a little bit long in the tooth, but man, they sure can play. They weren't getting anything out of their younger guys. And then I said, you watch that Detroit game, they clamped down the defense a little bit. You watch the first game back, I think there was 3 or 4 fights. You don't have to fight, but that just shows we're not done. We're not going to quit. So I do believe that Boston, but something you just brought up, that was what goes on in Tampa? Is there a fountain of youth there? Like every time they say it's done, you look at Vasilevsky's under 2 goals a game. Kucherov again is just out of his mind. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And I just every time I'm watching him, I'm like, what is going on here? Washington, they haven't died without Ovechkin. I mean, there's so many teams. Buffalo snuck up there, one of those teams that we've been talking about. The youth are going to come on, and this is going to be a one to change it. But Sean, the Maple Leafs without Austin Matthews are a problem. I know what you're going to say about the playoffs. But right now, what they're doing with their power play, Stolar's in net, and they're winning, and they look good. And Matthews is just sitting there on the shelf. I don't know. Again, we've seen it before. We know this song and dance with Toronto, but you've got to be impressed with that.
Oh no, in particular goaltending. Like honestly, yep. I mean, full marks. I mean. Berube's doing a great job. I mean, and no other way to say that, that was a team that needed to I perhaps take a deep breath after all the shenanigans of the past few years. And as crazy as it sounds, I think that would be the analogy that I use. Our buddy, the coach, said not with that, D. I'm assuming that he is referring to the Red Wings defense core, where after the top 2, you just have to shake your head. You just have to shake your head. There's no other. And it's interesting. I saw a lot of 2 of those guys in Sherratt and Petrie. When it starts to go for a player, it really, really goes. And that's the nice way that I can say what I'm seeing out of Jeff Petrie. And I think, just one man's opinion, I think that, not that this has ever happened in this town, Mike, I think that people thought that the guy that they were getting wasn't Ben Sherratt, but somebody else. That he is what he is. Mike, honestly, Ben Sherratt is what he is. He's going to have moments like every National Hockey League player. But the way that I heard some people talk about him, I was like, well, he's never going to live up to your expectations. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if anything, I would have wanted him to be a little bit more solid on the defensive end of things. I don't need points. I need this guy to come in as a guy that's played in the – they're looking for that guy that's played in the NHL that can say, hey, Edgerton, hey, Sider, this is the way we do it. This is what we're going to do. And, I mean, I think that could even be with Gustafsson. They're bringing these guys in, these veterans. They got a ton of games in here that they want these guys to be able to do that. They just haven't found that. Luckily, these 2 guys have just taken off and they're doing a good job. But I mean, I don't know how much more I can watch Petrie. I mean, I know the contract's there, and I guess you have to play him. What else are you going to do? But Sean, I don't want to be that, but I don't know if I've ever seen someone that big of a liability on the ice when he's out there. Yeah, the bottom dropped out on this guy. I didn't see this coming. I didn't think it was the greatest of signings, but Sean, this is bad.
Listen, he took a step back from the time that he left Montreal and his last time with Pittsburgh. He did. He took like a step back, Mike. The bottom completely dropped out. Make no mistake about that. My buddy Nick in Windsor. Shout out, Nick. Detroit has no goaltending or defense. Defense, you're just talking about. We hit the goaltending earlier. It's not sustainable. I know that's what Steve Yzerman does, but we've lived through the Alex Lyon, experience the last couple of years. And if you think that Cam Talbot is I don't know what to tell you. How about that? Let me tell you very quickly about All About Catering. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal, so do not sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give Rick and the gang a call. They're going to take care of you the way they took care of me. 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Appreciate Rick and the gang being a part of things for sure. Mike, here's a $1 million question that rings near and dear to both of our hearts. How are you making the turkey? I'm doing a traditional and I'm doing a smoked turkey. How's that?
Okay.
Which leads me to, hey, Mike, how are you doing your turkey this Thanksgiving?
Well, I got turned on to something and I'm not letting it go, and it's the pulled ham. So I've got my mother-in-law shoved into the kitchen, and she's going to be doing the traditional turkey. And then I am slow smoking a ham for 16 hours, and it's going to come out, Sean, just like pulled pork. I'm going to pull the bone out. It shreds just like pulled pork. I'm going to put a jalapeno jelly topping on it. It's going to be unbelievable. But since I've got the ham, I'm only doing 5. I'm doing 5 turkey breasts, 5 3-pound turkey breasts. I've got them brining right now. I'm going to inject them with Cajun butter. Then for a binder, you use mustard, right? I know you use mustard on a lot of your meats. I'm using mayo on my turkey breasts to hold on the Holy Gospel.
Yes.
Going to smoke them for about 2 hours.
Take them to church.
Yes, absolutely. With the Cajun butter on the inside, it's going to be unbelievable. But I can't wait. A little, as you know, gluten-free jalapeno cornbread and andouille stuffing. Man, I'm telling you, I can't wait.
Tom, Red Wings go through goalies like they did in the early 90s. Oh, poor Chevy. Poor Chevy. How many times this guy's the answer, that guy's the answer, this guy's the answer. Right. Eric giving you the business because of the hat you're wearing. I guess, Mike, I'm going to join the club. Now you can give me business about the coat that I'm wearing. Oh, look at our buddy Chuck, part of the state champs crew. More on state champs in a minute. I tagged that for good reason. Any way to share some of that ham tomorrow. You know what we're going to do, Chuck? Chuck was over my house last week. Mike, you couldn't make it. You had your opponent. I'm glad you're feeling well, by the way, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what? The next time we have the crew over at my house, you're going to have to come over and you and I can collaborate. I'll buy the damn ham, but I got to try your pulled ham thing. All right.
It's unbelievable.
I got to try.
What 100? You're not going to believe it. Like I'm a fan of ham. But this was, I'm telling you, I get about an 8.5 pounder, and it was just me and Christy during a Lions game, me and my wife, and that thing was gone by Wednesday. Like it's fantastic. You can just eat it like you would pulled pork. You can make a sandwich with it. You can do whatever you want. It's unbelievable.
Austin said, Wings really need to squeeze the heck out of their depth veterans. Isn't that the truth? I know Fire Newsy is the default line, but if he's going to be here, have a team meeting with all the depth guys that aren't producing offensively and aren't going 100%. And without secondary scoring, you don't get anywhere in the NHL. Austin, I brought this up. The first thing that I said, and Mike, I'll let you pontificate in a second. The first thing that I said, to your point today, to all the people out there that want to specifically blame Lalonde, is there were 3 games since we last chatted. And I flat out said I wanted to see how the guys responded to adversity. In their 2 wins, they fought hard for 60 minutes and they had one kind of improbable comeback and another not as improbable comeback against a team that's currently ahead of them in the standings. And if I'm not mistaken, if their season ended today, would be a playoff team. Both games against the Islanders, they had every opportunity to tuck tail and mail it in. And it showed me, and I know it's a small sample size, but I asked for that last week. And Mike, quite frankly, I saw it. It showed me that at least they're still going for him.
Yes, I agree. And you saw me raising my hand there because I'm going to make a comment back to the depth guys kind of thing. But I have to remind you, Sean, that Tim Shovelday was never the same after that Little Caesars Christmas party at Joe Louis. But I'm just going to leave that at that. But so I'm going to start. I'm going to start reading some names off here.
We were drinking that night. That's all I'm going to add to that. We were drinking that night.
So I'm going to read some names off here, and I just need people to raise their hand and start screaming out at the guys that they think are going to do this. You can have all the meetings you want, but Kopp, Comfer, Rasmussen. I'm going to give Casper a break. He's a kid that I'm hoping comes out. Fisher, Valeno, Mott. What are we talking about?
They are.
This gets into what I was saying about the evaluation of the talent that you've brought in. If this talent is what Steve thinks it is and what he brought in, then he's saying we're good for a few years until Trey Augustine can come in and I hope I hit a home run on some of these young kids. If he thinks that these guys are the guys that are going to take, like our friend said, a team meeting, and then all of a sudden Tyler Mott's going to be a 30-goal scorer, it's not there, Sean. We've missed the boat on this, and this is what I have said since we started. This is the same team as last year. If they can get cute and play hard for Lalone, we might be at Joe Louis again, Sean, in the last game of the season with a great crowd, hoping that we're one win from being in the playoffs again like last year. That's all. That would be lucky, in my opinion, with what I'm looking at here. Unless I'm missing the boat here. I don't know. I don't think I am, but
well, keep December 20th open. The night before we have a game the next night, as you know, we're doing Salem, Plymouth, but keep December 20th open. There's a certain team that's coming to town that we might have a chance to go down there that day, like we did that last game of the season. And if we don't do that one, or there's one in January too, so keep that in mind.
Okay, I'm in.
And I think we might have the same hookup too. So,
that'd be beautiful. Those were great seats, great food,
great seats.
And you know what? It was my favorite word, Sean. Free.
Yeah. Smoked turkey is a game changer. Absolutely, it is. People still eat the traditional. They destroy that. Poor Tim Shovelday. He was so torn up about that comment. He jumped in front of a truck and it went through his legs. That poor guy. Adam said, I have no confidence in any of them. Mike, your comments, Kirk said, agree with Mike 100%. That's what I'm saying about Sherratt. He is what he is. Like that's a personnel issue. If you're expecting, and this is part of the problem, I think this is what ailed the Red Wings, especially during the Ken Holland era. They were consistently asking guys on the D to be something that they weren't. They were consistently asking a 4 to be a 3, a 3 to be a 2, a 2 to be a 1. And how many of these guys, Mo Sider, how many of these guys have we heard people writing checks for? This guy's going to win multiple Norris trophies. This guy, and in fairness, like a couple of years ago, I was one of those guys. This kid's good. But I'm going to repeat it again. I haven't seen the development that I think we all thought we would see. They're supposed to go like this. And I understand defensemen are different. No two defensemen is certainly developed the same way. But that jump that a lot of us assumed was going to happen into the upper echelon of National Hockey League defensemen, you're lying to yourself if you put him in that conversation. Forget about lying to us. You're lying to yourself, man.
I think I'm a little bit easier on. I like where he's at. I like what he's doing. I think, be it Sider, be it Evanson, you're 1 and 2 at the age that they are, with absolutely no veteran help and nobody else. What they should be, Sean, they should be 3s and 4s, or maybe a 2 and a 3 in there. And sure, they need that solid veteran. They've done this. Think about Sider has done this all by himself. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the great Nick, he had guys. He always had somebody every year with him on that team that helped him build and develop. Mo's had nobody, and where he's at playing the hard minutes that he's playing, would we expect his numbers to be better? Sure, but with the development that he has, which is just throwing him in the deep end by himself without waiters and without his water wings, I don't know. I like where he's at. I like what I see. And when I'm looking at a player, I need him to just get better, and he is getting better. Is he where if you walk down the street, talk to them, they may talk you into Mo Sider's a top 5 defenseman in the league. I'm not there, but this guy is getting better. He's getting better with no help.
Yeah.
No help. And if we're looking at Talbot and Lyon having a good year because those top guys aren't scoring, it's because of Mo Sider is helping him out on that end. So I'm a big fan. I do wish he had some help, and if he did, I think he would be probably 3 notches higher.
And and I think that's part of it. We all made assumptions, yours truly included, that this was a guy that in a couple of years was going to be something that he clearly isn't. I mean, that's just the way it is, you know. And again, that's not saying that it's not going to happen. You know, it's I could name 5 defensemen off the top of my head. If you would have told me that Cam Fowler came into the league and was the impact player that he was almost immediately, my jaw would have dropped. Now, conversely, Drew Doughty, I think he could have done it a year early at 17. Like, honest to goodness, I saw that kid playing in Guelph, and I was like, it's unfair. I mean, this 17-year-old kid's unfair, you know? Ray said, what are your guys' thoughts on the OHL allowing guys to go and come from the NC2A? It's about time. I love it. Sorry, I do. I think it's fantastic. I know that I don't know how many guys will publicly say it. I think it's fantastic. If everybody else is collecting money, why not the hockey players as well? You guys know the drill. So often, you know, a kid wanted to go to college, and his the team that owned his rights were like, nah, we don't want you to go to college. We want you to go play for Dale Hunter in London. We want you to go play for Mike Vellucci in Plymouth. We want you to play in the Western Hockey League. We want you to play in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And conversely, a kid decided, well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go to North Dakota. And then he decided after a year, you know what? This college thing isn't for me. And he can't go play in the Western Hockey League after that. I've always felt it was a crock of shit. Pardon my language. I know a lot of guys privately thought it was a crock of shit. Pardon my language. And with all this money flying all over the place, Mike, I think it's about flipping time.
Yeah, and I've got a couple thoughts and a couple strong thoughts on it. Well, one strong thought, but a couple thoughts on it. One is I think college hockey over the last 5 years has done an unbelievable job of bringing some players in that they may not have gotten, you know, let's say 10 years ago, and it's gotten a lot better. It's about to get even better with these guys coming out of the O and the W and stuff like that. The strong opinion I have is I obviously, by what I just said, I love the fact that this is going to happen. This is something that we've been waiting for, and me and you have been talking about for a while. The problem I have is that at the same time, Sean, they've cut the scholarships and the roster spots down.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't do that. Even if you didn't open it up to the CHL guys, you shouldn't be doing that. You're taking roster spots from kids, be it walk-ons or whatever it is. And now you're bringing even more talent, which is going to filter it down. And that's great for the ACHA. That's great for D3. But for those kids that want to play D1 hockey, you just knock them out. And not because of the CHL stuff. I love that. I'm a proponent of that. But you can't do that and take roster spots away. I don't agree with that.
More of your comments in just a second. First, I want to tell you about the Wealth Advantage guys. I can't wait to see them tomorrow. It's our little tradition the day before Thanksgiving. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But most importantly, if you are ready to take charge of your financial future, well, then you need to look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by the Hanson brothers right there, Jeff and Mike Cusack, with 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are, and that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. If you're saving for retirement, you're getting ready to sell a company, you're already in retirement, these guys can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life. They have clients in over 20 states, including the guy talking to you right now. Yes, I'm very happily a client and I get my free pie tomorrow. Yes, they give out pies the day before Thanksgiving. The investment world is a complex one. And if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574. Check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Always appreciate, as the kids called them when they were little, Mr. Mike and Mr. Jeff. Tim said, boy, there are a lot of comments that I got to get to. I apologize. I'm going to try to catch up. We got a lot to do. Lalonde is the wrong guy for this team's makeup. Problem is the NHL isn't like the NFL or NBA. Can't pull a guy from the NCAA or other teams' coordinators to pull from. There's like that list of assistant coaches that it just seems like when a guy gets on a list of assistant coaches as one of the next assistant coaches, it doesn't happen all the time. And that's what's happened to my buddy, Mike Vellucci. I had people tell me, and I'm going to say this again, I like Coach Lalonde. Okay. Nothing personal against the guy. I think he's a personality. I've had a couple people tell me, including one guy who, well, you're going to have to take my word for it. I don't want to say too much. He was along the lines of what you said, Ray, the wrong guy for this job, that he was more of a specialty guy. And when you're tasked with taking the reins of a young team, you have to have a guy that has experience in coaching a young team. And the feeling was he was a guy that maybe didn't have that experience. He was more a guy that was, again, like a specialty coach. And it's kind of funny because if he's a specialty coach, and I'm not sure you're aware of this, the Wings have the worst PK in the NHL. But that was what somebody, and I know I shared that with you, Mike. That's what somebody told me from day one. I'm going to say it again. Has he done anything that makes you say, wow, he's a great coach? No. But how many guys are going to have success with this roster? If we're being honest with ourselves, how many guys are going to have success with this roster? I don't think too many.
And I think I brought it up last show. I'll double check it. I think he has a winning record with since he's been with the Wings. I'm almost positive. I don't know many people that would be. I said we were talking about coaches.
Now you know what the OT law. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I know. But so I agree with you. I have said it, and I'm going to continue to say it. I had my piece on him last year, and I said I would stop if Steve brought him back and Kane came back. Both things happened. I'm done with it. I'm past it. On top of that, until someone can say this is a guy that's going to be good in the development, better than him in the development of these guys, and a guy that's going to take a team lacking in talent outside the top couple players and do something, do what with it? I don't know what we're doing here, but that's a different story. But you brought up a name in Vellucci, and I had a note written down here, and I've got to ask you again. I go to you with all my hockey questions, Sean, and there's some guys that are going to be in the hot seat. How does Sullivan have a job right now?
What do you want me to say? I'm not even being funny. I wouldn't. What do you want me to say? I don't know. I really don't. I'm not being funny.
Right. Because I started to go down.
My guess is Mr. Crosby has a say in that. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that Mr. Crosby.
And that would make sense.
That's an educated guess. As God is my witness, I swear on my children, that is not coming from anybody. That is not coming from Mike Vellucci. I want to make that crystal clear.
Oh, yeah.
An educated guess would tell me that Sidney Crosby probably digs him.
Okay, and that makes sense. That's something I didn't think of. That makes sense. And the reason I asked was with the little loan talk last week and Montgomery's name coming up, and then obviously he got snatched up pretty quick by the Blues, and we talked about that on mine. I was wondering who would be next, and Sullivan's name came to the top. I mean, you're talking a goal differential of 34, a team that might already be past their last chance to win. If given a little bit of fire and a couple players, Dubas magic, maybe something like, I don't understand what they were holding on to, but because my question to you was going to be not the Sullivan, was who's next?
Yeah,
I got some names that I wrote down. Who do you think is Who do you think seat is the hottest?
It's got to be Sullivan, right? I mean, right? It's got to be. I can't imagine anybody even being within shouting distance. Is there somebody within shouting distance of him?
The only one I had, just because of the expectations and the money spent, is Brunei.
Yeah.
That was the one I was thinking. That
Yeah.
team, that Predator team, screams. I mean, it's almost identical, because you remember St. Louis went out in the summer and spent a lot of money, fired their coach right around Thanksgiving time, hired Berube, and came back obviously and had the magical season. A guy I love. Would they ever get rid of Tortorella? I love Torts. I love me some Torts, but that's a team that's got a ton of young talent.
Yeah, they would.
Okay, that's the next one, because they're down there and they're not sniffing it.
As you know, he wears on people. Do you know who is flying under the radar as a potential guy too? And only because you know of his mysterious ways. Lou Lamoriello's hire of Patrick Waugh. If they're languishing, and right now, I fact check myself. I think they're here. You know what? I'm going to look it up right now. I think they're a couple points out. They are 2 points out exactly. If they're languishing with a month to go in the season, he'll do what he did last year.
Yeah,
he's done it his whole gosh damn general manager career. He really has. It's his MO, man. It really is. It's his MO.
Yeah. And they're tipping, because I want to say, I don't know if they're all in a row, but it's about 8 in a row, or 8 of their last so many games they've lost in the third period where they were winning,
right?
Including two to our Red Wings.
Against the Wings. Comments. If I remember correctly, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because I think the age limit in the CHL is 19 or 20. If I'm wrong, I think Sean and Mike will say so. You can be an overager in the CHL at 21, as long as your birthday happens after, I forget the exact date, September 15th or whatever the case may be. But you can be an overager if you turn 21 during the course of the season. That qualifies as your overage year, as long as you're 20. And the teams are allowed to keep, that overager. And usually he's a, how's the best way I can say it? He's a glue guy. How's that? He's a good leader. He's one of those hard workers. You're not seeing any studs as overagers in the CHL, Mike. There's no other way to say that. Austin said Canadians to the NCAA, bad for American hockey, but good for college hockey, which in turn might be good for American hockey. There are already a slew of Canadian kids that have not wanted to go the CHL route. I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time, that didn't want to make the jump to the OHL, that didn't want to make the jump to the Q or the Western Hockey League. And it's more than a trickle already, Mike. It really is. It's more than a trickle already.
Yeah. I mean, the times have changed. I mean, it's what's going to happen. But the future will tell. We'll see how it's going to go. It could go either way. I don't know. We'll see.
A couple other. Do you think the guys develop better going to the NCAA or junior? If you could pick for a kid, where would you want them to go? I'm going to give you the stock scout answer. Are you ready? I've heard this 100,000 times from OHL scouts and NHL scouts. No two kids develop the same. Period. End of story. If I could pick for a kid now, I don't think it matters. I don't really. I mean, I don't think it matters now. Geez, oh Pete. Yeah, I honestly, I mean, with the way things are today, I don't think it matters. If you were a stud, if you were a full-fledged stud, I would have told you to go to the OHL.
Yes.
And a lot of general managers have told their clients who were dead set on going to play for Miami of Ohio or the University of Michigan. They told them, no, we want you to go play for Dale Hunter. We want you to go play for Mike Vellucci. So I today, though, with the way things are today, I'm not trying to cop out. Mike, you tell me if you agree or disagree. I don't think it matters today. I really don't.
No, I don't. I think you hit it head on when, if you go back a few years ago, you're looking at, if you were going to be drafted, you thought you were going to be drafted. If you were going to sniff the draft, you were going the OHL. They were going to push you there. If you needed more development, there was a couple programs, your BCs, your BUs back then, that they were going to push you towards in the NCAA. You look at the top end talent coming out of the NCAA right now because of the programs such as State, such as Michigan. You still have your BU.
Who did you say first?
I said State. I said State.
Why did
the
you
number one ranked Michigan State Spartans, Mr.
Thank
Belichick.
you. I was waiting for that. Thank you.
And I know we're getting late here and we're gonna go, but a question popped up there, and I did have it written down. And the only reason I wrote it down, Sean, is not to pick at you, is because you yourself have brought it up the last couple of shows about your Martin St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And that he's safe, and the rumors that are going around there after another big defensive lapse and some more goals scored. Is it getting tighter on him with not the losses, but the way they're losing?
You have to wonder that aloud, Mike. Yes. You do, and I think because. All right, if we're going to talk about how Nick Suzuki has gone like that, if we're going to talk about how Cole Caulfield has definitely gone like that, we also have to talk about how Kirby Dach just got sent down to the fourth line. We also have to talk about how Yarrow got sent down to the fourth line. Could it be a message? Yeah, it could be. Or could it be that, they aren't taking that next step possible? But I wonder if the rah-rah hands-on approach of Marty has worn thin. And I think that's a very fair question. I do. Yeah. Because I think it's all sunshine and lollipops for a while. But somebody mentioned Jacques Demers, okay? Jacques Demers was a guy like that. Jacques was going to come in and rally the troops and sing "All I Need Is a Miracle" and "Nothing's going to Stop Us Now." Well, that works for a couple years. But then all of a sudden the message starts to go through one ear and out the other when the guys kind of figure out you're nothing more than a glorified cheerleader. And that's what Jacques Demers was. He was a glorified. I think if you ask Jacques Demers today, he'd probably tell you the same thing. He was a glue guy. He was a let's get the boys right. Let's get the unified room and everything. And after a couple years, that message just goes through one ear and out the other.
Yeah, and I think it's telling that you've seen less and less. If you remember, and I know we've talked about it. We had Cole Caulfield on the show, and we talked about the video of Marty St. Louis taking him over the side and showing him. You're seeing less and less and less of that, and you're hearing about the expectations. You hear it last in the NHL. They're talking about the defensive lapses. It was just interesting, and I know you've brought it up. I just wanted to get your temperature on it.
Austin brings up a great point. I'll tell you what, that coach in Washington is awesome. Got them to the playoff berth last year, and they were red hot before Ovi got hurt. I think you have two guys that believe in Spencer Carberry here too. Like I can't believe what they're doing. They're just a fascinating story this year. I don't know if they have staying power. I'm not going to sit here and say look out for the Capitals or anything like that, but I don't know how they do it. Because I don't think that roster is special. I just don't. I don't think there's anything special about that.
And we're consistent with that. We said the same thing last year. They just weren't doing these things, and it's a lot of the same. But they're just playing, and they look fast. It's impressive.
Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and help save you some money. They did it for my family. They will do it for you and your family. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. So what are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Alex and Dave and Joe, the entire gang there, they are going to take care of you. Why do NHL teams go through coaches so fast? I'm a big Vegas fan, and they have had 3 already with so much success. Some coaches, Gerard Gallant, some coaches have a shelf life. They just do. Some coaches have a shelf life. If Scotty Bowman didn't have the incredible success that he had throughout his career, I don't think he would have had the long stays he had at places. I think sometimes people forget. Mike, he went to Buffalo and failed, and he stopped coaching for a while. And the only reason he got back into coaching is because Badger Bob, God rest his soul, got sick. And Scotty Bowman promptly won another Stanley Cup. And then the Red Wings at the exact same time were with a guy in Brian Murray. Nice guy, wonderful man. They weren't going to win with Brian Murray. So everything happens for a reason. And they get Scotty, and Scotty goes and does certain things. Mike Babcock was a guy that he won. He won a Stanley Cup in 2008. He won a couple gold medals. But when he's not winning anymore, guess what? All the things that people kind of look the other way when you're winning, people aren't looking the other way. They didn't look the other way in Toronto. In Toronto, they're consistently waiting to point the finger at somebody else because surely it's not on you. And Lord knows Mike Babcock gave them the opportunity to do that. So there are some guys, especially the way it was explained to me, and I don't mean to sound like an old man here. Today's player is different. Today's young man is different. And I think some of that stuff weighs on players. And that's why a lot of these guys have had the kind of shelf life that they have. Now, Pete DeBoer is not one of them. Pete DeBoer is a guy that his teams usually swear by him. But Gerard Gallant, if we're talking about Vegas, Gerard Gallant is one of those guys. And all one has to do is look at his track record. You can see that.
Yeah. And that's a good one. I think when I look at it, it's an interesting thing. I saw it up there during your read, and I was thinking about it. And something that came to me was when you're talking about why does the NHL fire coaches, faster than other, you're talking about a league. And when I see hockey, I see it differently than the other leagues. And you look at a Jerry Jones, for instance, and people may say he's passionate. I think he's passionate about one thing. He's passionate about making money.
Absolutely.
And looking good. And I think that's what the other leagues look at. When you look into your hockey owners, and I don't know them all personally, Sean, I couldn't probably name you more than one. They want to win the cup. They're passionate hockey guys that own that. And if you're not living up to expectations, or the team's not living up to expectations in the world of salary caps and guaranteed contracts, it's really easy to get rid of your coach. And I think that hockey's just become that you've got owners that want to win the cup, and it's very easy to fire a cup when you can't redo your roster.
Can I, Mike, I'm not in the business of sticking up for Mike Babcock. I'm not, because he's made his own bed. But Adam, I just want to bring up one thing. Adam said, I think they won in spite of Babcock. Sometimes circumstances call for guys, if that makes sense. Dave Lewis is one of the nicest human beings. I'm serious. Mm-hmm. Dave Lewis was never, ever, 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 ever going to work with the Detroit Red Wings. For one reason. He was the good cop. He was the buffer. With Scotty Bowman, when Scotty Bowman did Scotty Bowman things, he was the good cop. The players went to Dave Lewis. Louis was one of them. Louis was the good guy. He was the good cop to Bowman's bad cop. So unfortunately, that kind of festered a little bit after Scotty retired after the 0-2 Cup. And quite frankly, they needed a guy to come in and be a dick.
Yeah.
And he fit that role very memorably including having one of his players in the last month of the season. And Scott, I think I can say this, Todd, without getting fined here by the swear jar, because I'm quoting somebody. And you know what I'm talking about, Mike.
Yep.
One player in the 2007 team didn't say anything but 3 words to Mike Babcock the last month of the season. Fuck you, Babs. I'm serious. That's real. I had guys tell me that. Not the guy himself, but multiple guys said whenever Mike Babcock looked at, I want to say his name so badly, whenever he looked at him and said anything, his response would just nonchalantly look at Coach Babcock and say, fuck you, Babs. So they had to get rid of a couple of those guys. And then if you remember, he really turned into Super Dick after that.
Yeah.
I have no other way to say that. He did. And now you hear the horror stories afterwards, right? You hear the horror stories in 2012 and 2013 and 2014. Did any of us hear any of those horror stories in 2007 and 2008 and 2009 when they went to the Western Conference Finals, when they went to the Stanley Cup Final and won, and when they went to the Stanley Cup Final again and came this close to winning in 2009? It's fascinating that we didn't hear any of that then. Privately, some of us did, but honest to goodness, Mike, did you hear any of that stuff? I didn't hear any of that stuff during that at least out in the open. I didn't hear any of that stuff.
No, it wasn't until after the fact that everyone started talking.
Yeah. All right. One thing before we get out of here, let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell. When it comes time to getting yourself a new house, selling a house, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? Well, that lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Mike, before we get out of here, we're doing a broadcast again tomorrow.
I can't wait.
We're
back, baby. I'm very excited. Yes.
Seriously, why don't you check out what Mike and I do on the State Champs Network? Our buddy Chuck was in there, part of our incredible crew that have to put up with our idiocy, because when we're together, if you think I'm bad, if you think he's bad, it goes up about 10 times when we're together, and the crew could tell you that. But no, all jokes aside, we have a blast calling games. We have 3 in the next month, as a matter of fact. But tomorrow night, and you can check it on the State Champs YouTube page, on Twitter, the Facebook page, all over the State Champs Network. We are going to be at USA Hockey Arena, just about 4 miles down the road from where I'm sitting right now. Mike, I don't want to disrespect anybody else, but you could say that this is the single game of the year in the regular season. Detroit Catholic Central taking on Birmingham Brother Rice at USA Hockey Arena. It really is just an awesome, awesome spectacle.
Yeah, it's 2 big rivalries, regardless of the sport that it is. These 2 schools do not like each other. And when you put them on the ice the night before Thanksgiving, all the past teams come home. They're all in the crowd. They're going to sell out USA Arena. The student sections are singing. They're going crazy. We can't even see half the ice. There's so many people out there.
It's true.
The atmosphere is unbelievable. And Sean, I know you coaches talk to you and you've been whispering to me. I think we're going to have a game this year.
I'm really looking forward to it. And Mike, to your point, I would normally implore you to come out and check out the great product that is Michigan high school hockey. And we talked about it all summer long. Oh, there's my buddy Chuck. He's still in there. Great atmosphere. All the kids there, packed place. It's nuts. Wish I could just watch the game and not work it. To Chuck's point, this is what I wanted to say. Normally I tell you to go to the game. You know what I would tell you for tomorrow? Don't waste your time. You're not getting in.
Yeah.
You're not. Mike, you're not going to get in. Like, seriously, you aren't. So why don't you sit at home and watch my buddy Mike do his work as an analyst. Chuck and the entire state champs crew. I always say the best in the business do what they do, and I'll call the game. So why don't you sit at home and just watch a game tomorrow night? How's that?
Yeah, and if you're coming out and we were talking about high school hockey, there's a couple of kids. I'm gonna just name 2 kids, one on each side. The captain over there on Brother Rice, the kid's been around. He's had some good games, some big goals for him. Roman Valeri, he's the kid's a dynamite little player. I want you though to come out and just watch this CC defensive core. Their top 5 are going to be the top 5 in the state. I don't know the last time I've seen a stacked complete lineup like this. But watch Bloink. Sean, the kid's a game changer. He's like a little forward back there. He's their leading scorer right now. But you want to talk about all the different levels of hockey. Me and you obviously promote the high school level. There's going to be some high-end talent out on this ice and some high-end talent in the stands, and they're going to be cheering and rooting. It's going to be a great environment. You got to come out and see it. But like you said, if you're going to do it, you got to get there early. You got to get there real early.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. And you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. Mike, the night before Thanksgiving has kind of turned into the de facto rivalry night all around the state. There's great action all around the state. I know you and I in the future, we're going to try to hit some of those other games the night before Thanksgiving, but tomorrow night, that's the night, 7:30, all across the State Champs Network. Mike and I will be on the call. We'll also mention to you December 6th, we're going to be at Novi Ice Arena for an East versus West battle. Byron Sensor, the defending Division II champion, coming over to take on the Mustangs. And then Mike, December 21st, the Battle of the Park. We got Salem taking on Plymouth. That should be a fantastic matchup as well. So do us a favor. If you're a hockey fan, you're watching this, you're a hockey fan, certainly check out our thing. Eric asked, I'll be back, French Terminator. Eddie, bringing up the French Terminator, my man. Do the Lions win? Yes. I think they're going to pound the Bears personally. That's just one man's opinion. I'll ask my gambling friend, Mike, what do you think in the waning moments of this show?
Well, I'm gonna call it a cliffhanger, Sean. I'm gonna say, if you want my opinion on the Lions game, that you should turn into Off the Board tomorrow at 5 p.m. with me and Blake and get not only the Lions game, but all of our picks.
You better hurry to the rink, young man. We have a game to do, so you better hurry.
We may be going on a little bit earlier than that, because I think he has a dentist appointment, so he's going to be off. But they know I've got to get there, so I'll be there in plenty of time, because I've got to have my gluten-free pizza before we go on.
Oh, it's so good. It really is just an underrated spot. All right, I need a dip. Thank you guys for watching. Check us out tomorrow night. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Mike, always a pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow night.
See you.
Thanks, Todd. See you. God bless y'all. Keep hope alive.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.